Hello guys, and welcome to episode 9. And you will notice that we are again with the one and only Mr. Gavan Wall of the Wall Group, serial entrepreneur, taking over the world with the change. You can see his bit of brand in there. This is actually episode 8, part 2, but we're calling it episode 9. Gavin, thank you so much for coming on with us again. Really appreciate your time, and I know you're a busy guy.
Yeah, no problem at all. I enjoyed last chat, so certainly I felt it was worth a part two.
There's too much to fit in, too much to talk
Yeah,
about.
with too much to fit in, and we got through quite a bit, but I know there's plenty more, and it's valuable. Hopefully it's
Absolutely.
valuable. Hopefully it's valuable for
We didn't get
your
to the end
listeners.
of that journey. So
Yeah.
one of the things we wanted to focus on today, Gavin, was talking about business and communities. That's something that
Yes.
we really relate to you quite a bit. But just before we kind of go on to that part, last time we were discussing how Kieran came into the business and what he done.
Yes.
And how you weren't very good as a manager. But we wanted to kind of go a wee bit further with that, hear a wee bit more, and understand that the changes that happened, because we know what you can share here that you brought forward within the Wall Group as well. So it'd be great to hear a wee bit more about that.
Yeah, look, there's a big piece here, and I think it's not just about bringing, whenever your business is growing, it's not just about bringing in managers for the sake of managers, okay? I think you have to spend a bit of time. We sort of touched upon it the last time, and maybe go into it a little bit deeper today. I think you have to analyze what your skill set, your own personal skill set, if you're the owner, if you're the leader of the business, whatever it might be, you have to think about what your skill set, your own personal skill sets are, okay? As you embark on building that management team.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're really, really good on process, but you're not so good on big picture, maybe engaging in CSR, maybe the outreach to the community, maybe that's the side you need to think about a manager who's got a wee bit of that in their makeup. If you're like me and you're sort of pretty good on the big picture, the inspiration, the outreach piece, but managing the daily process isn't your thing as much, then you maybe then go for someone who has a bent towards, managing the daily process. Now, maybe your own management style is slightly different, but so what I'm saying is when you're hiring, don't just go into the hiring process thinking, I need a manager, my business is growing, I better get a manager in. Let's have a look at, maybe there are people already in the business. For that's first thing anyway. Succession planning is absolutely key. So don't be just immediately going outside all the time. Think about who's in your business, what they can do, how you can grow them. Because the more often you go outside, then you have to integrate. Then you're worried about how the people already in the business think about the new person coming in ahead of them. Did they give it a chance? All of those sorts of things. But what I'm saying is that do have an eye. Think about what it is that's missing in your business. Not just I need a manager because my business is growing. Think about what skill sets you personally have, you've already got in the business as you look for the people you're looking to bring in. And I think there was a last time we were talking, there was a wee something that I had just remembered, and it's on this point, and you were talking about Kieran, and so Kieran we did, what did we call them at the time? Forgotten what we actually called them, but we actually used to do events whereby we would bring maybe 20 potential applicants or 20 applicants in. We would do a group a role-playing session. We'd then do mini interviews. We'd do a whole lot of things. So it was a whole big assessment center. We used to call them an assessment center. And Kieran came. Did I mention this the last time? Kieran came to this assessment. I did. And so anyway, so he got the highest we'd ever had in the assessment center. But about 2 weeks into this is the funny, about 2 weeks into his journey with us, I was sitting down having a meeting with Kieran, and he brought a wee book with him. How funny, it was a book that I actually had read before, but it really didn't get it the previous time, and it was Who Moved My Cheese?
Right.
And we walked into and he got Who Moved My Cheese? Dan Blanchford, isn't it?
Yes.
And he gave me. He gave me a book. He says, "Have we read of that?"
This is his first time coming into you?
This is in 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks of being in the business.
Right. Okay.
One of the very first.
Very good.
One of the very first meetings, he just says, you just have a read at them. And do you remember what we talked about sort of like almost 150 people reporting into me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I have a massive capacity to handle all sorts of stuff. What happens is then, because you do that, you just get more and more and more and more of it without pushing back, and you need to test them, etc., etc. And I had done who moved my cheese a few years earlier. I actually done a video version of it.
Right.
Didn't quite get it, so Kieran gave that to me, and I thought, fuck, that's ballsy.
I have to be respected.
You don't know, it has number one, it has to be respected, and I suppose number two, it's obvious and evident to people that I'm open to learning and keep growing myself. So he probably knew. He probably, I know who some of his earlier managers and bosses were. He mightn't have done that to them. Maybe they didn't need it. I don't know. But anyway, he pushed that across to me. He says, "Have a read of that." And I read that, and funny, that time when I read it, the penny dropped. The previous times it hadn't dropped, because I'd been on a longer development journey of myself at that stage, and it fitted in then, and I got it. I sort of, right, okay, I'll stay out of your way. I'll let you get on with it.
Yeah, it's funny. That's one of the early books that you had said to us to sort of check out. And it had a map. It's interesting. The thing about Who Moved My Cheese is, depending on when, as you just said there, what part of the journey you're on, it can have a different meaning at different times. So for me, when I read it, it blew my mind. I was sort of, it's just about, you obviously have to just view things in a different way. It's how you perceive everything. There's an opportunity around every corner. And then I give it to my mom, and she was like, "That was a load of crap." But it just depends where you are on your journey. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was definitely ballsy of him to hand that over to
it was ballsy of him. So for me at that stage, essentially what happened was that I was emasculating. I was sort of turning my managers, or the ones who were in there reporting, into more supervisors, because I was taken. So I kept feeding them. You don't have to go too far to find the answer. Look, I find the answers for you. You just stay there. There's your wee pile of cheese. I'll go off and blah, 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 blah. And they didn't develop. Kieran was quite good at that, actually. So off he went. So that was a wee story that sort of was at the back of my head last week.
His head will be filling up.
I'll have to knife him here.
How long ago was that now? How long ago Kieran?
So that was almost 3 years. That was the thick end of 3 years ago.
Right.
3 years, just tail end of the summer, 3 years ago.
That's unbelievable.
He's great since that point then.
So his role has developed. So he came in one part of the business, and then we've developed his role into a bigger role over time.
Yeah.
Good. But he and I are well suited. Yeah, it's great. It was a great opportunity for him, and he'll be laughing when he's watching this. Well, he as a manager, we are a good fit, because as say, he likes the managing of that process, and he's very good at that. He's much better at that than me.
I think we should maybe get Kieran on.
Give his side of the story. Absolutely. Look, I think you should. That's part.
Two sides of every coin.
Yes, and look, Kieran will be the first to tell you that I have taken plenty of risk with Kieran, in the context of I've tried to build him more on the entrepreneurial, more on the vision, on that piece. Put a lot of work. I've put a lot of risk. Kieran now owns Yogi Berry, as you know. I also knew that opening up that sort of opportunity and the burden, of having a business was part of his journey, and also, was a risk for me to support him in sort of dipping his toe into the entrepreneurial side of things.
That's an inch.
What if he likes it? What if he's better at than me, etc. I could lose him, but I felt that was part of the next stage of his journey, and I'm quite open to making sure that he develops, not helps him develop the rest of the team, etc.
I think that's a brilliant attitude to have. The fact that you can see that, because we always find that when people get to develop personally, that really positively impacts the whole business, and you generally find that because you've shown so much dedication to them, that you get that back tenfold, and maybe someday he will leave, but you've got the absolute best out of him the whole time that he was there, which is the most important part.
And a lot of small business owners don't get that bit. And I encourage them to. So funny, I've got somebody just reached out to me recently, last week, on LinkedIn, and they've gone from a bigger business into a sort of a retail business, independent retail business, and they're really struggling because they're not getting an opportunity to show what they can do because
Right.
the owner of the business has brought them in to sort of do a job, but then they're in and the owner's saying, oh no, I do it this way, you know, we've always done this way. And but I've been in big business and I've seen actually there's other way. Oh, no, just do it. So
Yeah.
you have to be
There
prepared.
comes a point, yeah, there comes a point where the entrepreneur can actually stand in the way of the progress of the organization, and it's kind of, it's either going to keep going this way or it's going to start dropping at that point. And it shows what type of leader you are, that you're able to take a step back. Because I know you're quite open about the fact that you have such a great team now that you can take a step back from the business, and you have taken a step back, and you've got amazing people already running it. So it shows, you definitely display that you've got that vision. And I think anyone watching who knows you, maybe even somebody that doesn't know you by this point, they've realized that you're kind of not eyes in the clouds in a bad way, but in a good way. You know, you can see.
Yeah. Well, what happened is the thing that happens, JP, on that part of that journey, and I know because going from being in control of everything to not abdicating your responsibility. What's the word I'm looking for? A bit. Jeez, I've just forgotten the word. I'm not on form today. Delegating, yeah. So delegate, don't abdicate. So that journey, as you start to delegate more and more and more, what happens is, and this is what I have seen in other entrepreneurs, is that whenever there's a mess, whenever you've delegated out quite a bit, and something goes wrong, it really goes wrong, because you'll discover actually that there's more bits of string that you haven't been in control of, that you didn't even realize were going on underneath the levels that are underneath you. When the shit hits the fan, it really hits the fan. And what happens at that stage is then the entrepreneur is very tempted. I'm just going to pull it all back in. I'm just going to take it all back into myself. Oh fuck, I can't deal with the pain of that. I'm never letting that happen again.
Yeah, I was working when I was in control.
Yeah, when I was in control, it didn't go that. We had a few bumps, but it didn't go catastrophically. Catastrophic. I told you I was struggling today, didn't I? Catastrophically wrong. We had a few bumps, but it didn't. The shit didn't hit the fan in the same way. So therefore, I'll pull it all back close into me. I'm not going to let that happen again.
Yeah.
What you actually have to do is you have to take that pain and you have to say, right, where did we go wrong as a team? Did I abdicate a wee bit too much there and not delegate? Am I actually controlling all the variables, or not even controlling? Am I actually tracking them? So your piece then at that stage, as you let more and more of it go, and we've built it really strongly with our finance team in the Wall Group. Your thing is then you have to start measuring everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not about keeping it close and close and close. It's actually measure it.
Yeah.
What are the KPIs? What are the team meant to be doing? What are the targets for the week? What are our labor cost targets? What are we tracking whether our consumers are having a good experience in our business or not? Are we looking at our turnover of staff? Are we holding on to our staff? Tracking all of that stuff is the bit that then helps
you. Can't monitor, but you can't measure.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll not grow it. So what happens is when you start that journey, shit hits the fan. Love entrepreneurship. I'm taking it all back in here. No, that's when you have to make sure that you're monitoring it, measuring it, etc. To help it grow to the next stage.
And what made you go to make the decision then, moving on from Kieran then, to bring in the board then?
So the next stage, I knew my journey. I realized, or I believed, that I couldn't reach my own personal goals. And this sounds wrong. It's a bit like the barrister thing again. It's going to sound wrong. It's going to sound like I get to a stage whereby maybe I can't develop it further, or I just got the stage. Did the Yogi Berry thing as an outlet to try and create a bigger pie. That didn't work. We didn't have enough management structure for the sort of 10 stores we had at that stage, 150 staff. And the idea was right to do something else, but we didn't have the structure. That's when I then said, right, it has to be more than just the odd manager here. I have to build the board, and the board has to cover both the management and also the financial piece and the monitoring of all the data, because retail's in the detail. If you're not looking after that, it won't work. So I then decided, right, I need to get a board, a structure of people. So we, as well as bringing in Kieran, we then I then decided, so I had an accountancy practice, and they were doing a good job, but essentially I was paying them more. They would come in each quarter and do a day to a day and a half with me each quarter.
Right.
Right.
But that was the only real tracking of the finances was done in that day and a half each quarter.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the cost of it, because our business got the cost of bringing somebody in for maybe a day and a half. No, in fact, it wasn't a day and a half, it was 2 days. The cost of bringing somebody in for 2 days was actually getting to the stage whereby, do you know what, I could actually employ somebody for a similar amount of money. And even if it cost me more to employ somebody, we're actually could be tracking this stuff all the time.
Yeah, good consistency.
Good and there's
Finger on the pulse.
Yeah, and then once we start building that, and so we brought somebody in, the sort of Kieran's level, brought Rory in. I went out to the market and I hired and went for the best person I could. I didn't go for the cheapest person I could find. I went for the best person I could find. I found Rory Murray, who is sort of director of finance in the business. And my wife actually, she's retail accountant. She reports into him and into Kieran, and so she was probably the third part of the jigsaw. We actually I said, you know what, my ambitions are sort of in another limb as I developed then into startups and venture capital and stuff like that. And I said, I need to strengthen the business again. And then she came in. So we have a really, really strong team at the top of the business. Like really, I mean, people would kill for the team that we have.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And we will have our best year probably ever. The year before was our worst year ever.
Right.
So, yeah. So that's another thing about building the team, is that it can take a while, and you can have a lot of pain along the way.
Yeah.
So, you know, I could have been close to giving up. We had our worst year ever. At the final stage of building that team to the stage whereby I could be out of the business on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Why do you think that was, Gavin? Was there any particular reason that you can share?
Because it's really tough to do, and it's the reason. Whilst I was trying to build the business so that it could be self-sufficient, I realized that was actually the hardest part of the entire journey. Honestly, it was really, really tough. I then realized why most people don't do it, why most people keep control of all the levers, because of the pain you can have on the journey when you get it wrong, because you will invariably get it wrong, and sometimes I got it wrong, and it led to our worst year ever, which if you just looked at it, it was quite horrific. But if I can remember saying to my bank manager, I'm this close. I'm this close. He says, you say that to me every year. I said, no, I know I do. I know I do, but you need to have a wee bit more patience. I'm this close.
Yeah, you didn't want to stop digging before you hit the goal.
Yeah, so he knew over a 4-year period what I was trying to do.
Yeah,
the bank manager.
Build the foundation.
Yeah, I kept on, and I said, look, it hasn't happened yet, but we're getting closer. We're getting closer. And then I had our worst year ever, and I was going, but it's all in place now. We've got it. And touch wood, fortunately, this year I'll get the annual accounts back tomorrow. Funnily enough, annual accounts are back tomorrow morning. And I think we'll have a better year this year.
Yeah, I think with every change that's made, especially when we look at organizational culture, we're telling organizations that it can take between 12 and 18 months for a genuine impact on the organization to take hold. And I think what you're saying there is, obviously you made a change. There was cost in the short term and it looked terrible on the books, but what actually you've created is long-term growth. And it's the same if we're bringing that back to culture a little bit, we're saying at the organizations, it's the most successful organizations who understand that vision is important. You need to know where you're going, and you also need to understand that there are short-term small wins, but the overall kind of piece of the pie is going to be had at least between that 12 to 18-month period, where everything that the nuts and bolts are well oiled and everything just works the way it's meant to, and everybody gets along, and the business starts making the money that you would expect it to, and taking over the market the way you would. But that takes foundation. That takes what you've achieved there, which is the people who are the key players who initially it might look like Jesus, we've spent so much money on the salaries and the costs that come along with all that, but actually now you're saying you might actually have by tomorrow found out that you've had the best year you've ever had, which is a perfect example of it.
Yeah, and if you talk about culture, for instance, you know, you guys are involved with, and you're going in to try and change the culture of a business. So you go in, everybody is been doing. People don't like change, right? That's just natural. That's the way. Most people don't. I do, but I'm unusual. But most people don't. You go into business and you start changing the culture, and you now start telling people you've got a purpose. We're doing this. We're actually doing it for a reason. Well, I don't care what your reason is. You know, this is the way I always did it. And it takes a bit of time when you're changing something like that, because you might lose people along the way who don't want to change. Because they're so ingrained in what they want to do, and you know, then it may be turnover of staff just because they just say, look, I don't want to be part of it. I'm not interested in, you know, what the ambition or the aspiration is, or just something like that, and that's fine, you know. But it takes a time, and then replace them with people who maybe do want to do it, or promote people who, you know, who likes, right, we're doing things differently here. This is really good. I can be part of something with a mission. So anything like this, you know, at least 12, 18 months, and it can be longer. It was.
Because that's one of the things. I mean, even with turnover, obviously you want to keep turnover low, but one of the things about turnover is obviously there's a healthy turnover as well. As you say, some people that don't always buy in move on because it's just not for them. They have another place elsewhere, and that's absolutely fine. But you're bringing in new people, fresh minds that push the business forward as well. So that's healthy, and it's just natural as well.
One of the things that we were always very proud of before we stepped away as the direct managers of Odyssey, we still oversee it, is that obviously we had that sort of 2-year period of 0 employee turnover, nobody left. And that's amazing because it's a huge achievement. People obviously wanted to stay, but then there obviously comes the other issues with that, which are people become a little bit stagnant, especially if you're not growing them. Thankfully we were, and we were providing a lot of opportunity, but we recognized before we stepped away, and obviously it's completely different to what you're doing because it wasn't our business, but we were in the position of stepping away, and so we really started relying on that pipeline of leaders. And if you don't have that, you have to go out the marketplace. I'm sure there's a lot of heartache that goes into making sure you get the person who's perfect, that cares, sees the purpose, understands people, and the way you would, because obviously you care about your people. And one of the things I wanted to highlight was just the fact that obviously community, you've taken, I mean, you had a hashtag that trended, wasn't it? Was it back in North Belfast?
Hashtag back in North Belfast. I still use that one. I absolutely hammered. Do you know where that came from? Where that started? Actually, this is quite funny, given that I'm sort of reasonably prolific, say on LinkedIn, for instance. I'm pretty well known for that. Is that I didn't have any social media at all until it'll be 5 years ago now. Nothing, absolutely nothing. And I only got it because of Yogi Berra. So this is another thing. So Yogi Berra. So I ended up losing in 2.5 years £600,000 on Yogi Berra. Right, 600 grand. That's what Yogi Berra cost me in pound notes. But I look back on it, and I got a member of staff who set up a Facebook account for me because I didn't know how to do that. So it's funny, she still works for us. She's been working for us for a decade. And she set up a Facebook account for Yogi Berra because I knew we'd have to promote it. And funny, I've just on my own podcast, on Speed Mentor podcast, funny, I've just been doing a couple of episodes on marketing because it's really important at the minute still to be marketing, even in this downturn. But so she set up Facebook, and I started doing all these hashtags. Like I was just going mad at it. Hashtag BT9 is so last year, because I was trying to create, you know, BT9, you know, South Belfast. I was trying to create a real buzz about BT15. And then I was going hashtag BT15 where all the beautiful people go, and hashtag BT9 so last year, and all the hashtag Yogi Berra sends house prices up 10%. All of these in North Belfast, all of these things. And then I came on to this one that really stuck with me because it was part of a wider thing that we did anyway, and the rest of the business was hashtag back in North Belfast. And it was after the flags protest and all that nonsense and all the rest of it, etc. all that malarkey, and that was bad for Belfast, as it were.
Yeah.
And we, so I sort of stole it a little bit and, just tweaked it just for hashtag
Oh,
back in North
well.
Belfast, and I absolutely I hammered that.
Yeah.
I hammered that for 3 or 4 years, and it
Yeah.
really helped me, associate myself with trying to do good for a particular area that has been largely,
Yeah.
overlooked and disenfranchised and hasn't had the money pumped into it that other
Mm.
areas have, and
Yeah.
has societal issues around communities that are, tied up against each other, and all the peace walls are largely in North
Yeah.
Belfast. So it really helped me to frame my CSR.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was something that at the time
Like,
it really resonated with us at the time, because we're from obviously North
Yeah.
Belfast, and just seeing and listening to a lot of stuff that you were saying and doing, and in terms of what strengths that the Wall Group provided as well, for the community, in terms of, I mean, employment, obviously one of the big ones, but
Yes.
also a great service, and then on top of that as well, for yourself and the Wall Group, that you gave so generously as well to the
Yeah.
community in all different forms. And we finished off the last episode talking about the Northern Ireland Children's Hospice as well, and that's obviously a big part of what you've given back, but it came in so many different ways. I've seen it, even a few different posts of recent times about like food being delivered down to the Mater Hospital and things, and
So we
just wee odds and ends.
Yeah, so the Northern Ireland Children's Hospital, we did quite a bit. Used to do a lot with Click Sargent, for instance.
Right.
Right.
We did lots in Yogi Berry for Click Sargent, and we opened up the store just exclusively for young children coming out of treatment for cancer,
Right.
etc. So there was a whole Click Sargent. Used to do loads for them. So I don't know if you remember, we did like colour parades, or
No, actually, no.
oh yeah, so we did lots of this, and maybe it took a while before it was getting noticed and stuff like that. But we used to do, I used to do a hashtag North Belfast's only non-contentious parade. So I did a whole thing about this. So we had hundreds of people every year. We had hundreds of people, and you can go back and look on our
I do
Facebook.
remember that.
Yeah.
I do remember
So we
that.
had
Yes, I
hundreds of
do.
people going. So we'd start on the Hobian Centre, and look, to be fair, we did a parade around most of North Belfast's Wall Group shops. If I'm honest, we used to stop off at them, and I used to get a wee picture of our journeys, and we did that in conjunction with the brilliant guys Thomas Turley and Big Waitso of our city, Belfast.
Right. Yeah.
Guys
Yeah.
were based up the Hobians, absolutely, Alan Waite, absolutely brilliant guys. So we did it in conjunction with them. We did that 3 or 4 years. A colour parade, and we stop off, throw paint at each other, and go for a parade. cross community march around North Belfast. Used to raise thousands of pounds for
Fantastic.
Click Sargent and for other ones, and that was before the Northern Ireland Children's Hospice thing came along.
Yeah.
So we have been involved in that, and we've tied our business's name to it. It's helped us get the name out there of our own business. It's helped us support the charities. It's helped the charities loved it. It's helped us showcase that SMEs. What I find with SMEs, and as you know, I talk about this quite a bit, is that the day-to-day grind can be so tough that SMEs say, look, I don't have the bandwidth or the capacity to do anything for anybody else.
Yeah.
It's so tough running my own small micro business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true. The grind of that is really, really tough. But when you do take the risk to lift your head and say, do you know what, I'm going to give back a bit. Firstly, it gets you away from your grind. So you're forced actually to empower your team a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because if you're saying, I've got 3 or 4 years this year, maybe more, where I'm going to be doing CSR stuff, you're forced a wee bit to say, can you take a wee bit of responsibility off me and accountability for this wee bit project? I'm way off to do something else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so by committing to other stuff, it forces you to grow your team. It then improves the profile of your business. It then makes life better for people who are suffering from whatever they're suffering, whether it be cancer, etc., whatever it might be, because you're giving back to those charities. It then encourages other businesses. When you do it, other businesses think, "Why, flip, he's doing that, she's doing that. I need to do a bit of that too."
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you've created a sort of virtual circle of positivity and encouragement and giving back.
Yeah.
It is really powerful.
We
I've
did-
done a podcast episode.
We had a similar scenario as well. Just it was one of the girls in Odyssey Bowl that approached us and asked if she could run a charity event, and it was for NSPCC.
Yeah.
And that, like, see from her doing that, we've seen all the strengths that she had in terms
Yeah.
of leadership. She just took it on herself and went and
Yeah.
raised everything, brought everybody together, and she ran a brilliant day. It gives people a chance to showcase other things that they have that maybe they wouldn't get an opportunity to showcase.
Yeah.
otherwise.
So, and as you say, then you see what they can do. Then
Yeah.
you start thinking, do you know what? Maybe as a business, we could be organising events that aren't CSR, for instance. And lo and behold, look, I've got somebody. Do you know what? It's almost because for that member of the team, maybe who has gone and organised some CSR event or something like that, because it's something they want to do, they don't feel the same sort of pressure that they would as if it was a work thing.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
because it's a thing
Yeah.
from their heart,
Yeah.
and they've
Yeah.
done something from their heart. And then once they've done it, as you say, do you know what? You did a really good job organising.
Yeah.
You know, we could have 2 or 3 events that aren't necessarily always going to be CSR within the business.
Yeah.
You know what? You could organise those for me.
Yeah. And
So
that's
it's
another,
a
that's
good way.
another way of having leaders stepping
Mhm.
up, you know, because we've spoke to some organizations who there's SMEs, they've got some fantastic team members, because there's always fantastic people if you allow them to be fantastic people, if you give
Yeah.
them the room to grow. But sometimes we've spoke to organizations who they're nearly afraid to lose certain people, and what they actually end
We
up.
get this. Jesus, look, this is the other number one fear about growing your team and about the culture and how you improve it, is that I can remember. I can remember whenever I started showcasing my team, particularly on LinkedIn, and first thing that was happening all the time, they start getting hit up and connected with by other employers.
Yeah.
It's the same every single time, and because I'm quite open and try to build a strong team, particularly with the ones that I would still deal with on the senior side, you know, not necessarily just the board, but below that, you know, they'll be honest to me and say, "Oh, such and such just reached out to me today." You know, but I'm able to say, yeah, well, do you think you would be getting showcased by them the same way as are they showcasing any of their team?
Yeah, exactly.
Are they sort of investing in the additional training that we're doing with you?
Yeah.
You know, I don't think you would get that there, and they realize that. They do
Yeah.
realize that, but
I
the
think-
fear is, but there is the fear, right? If I say good job, so how many times have I talked about Kieran on this? You know, if I say good job about Kieran or Rory, or any of the other people I've showcased on my LinkedIn, somebody's going to come in and steal them. I have to keep them secret, but it's by keeping them down there like that. That's your
Yeah.
greatest fear. That's the first way that you'll lose them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, suppression.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
going to end up.
The
Sorry,
Richard
go ahead,
Branson
Sean.
code, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
About training people.
Yeah,
Train people,
so-
afraid to train people in case they lose them, but it also says, what if you keep them and you don't train them?
I know, yeah. So there is that, but that's a wee mindset. There's a wee switch there, and it's not easy for business owners to see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and see on the whole, the link just in general terms as well with community. I mean, obviously a lot of the areas that you have the spar shops in are deprived areas. Jenny, what about the sort of employment? What way do you find things for people coming into business, like in terms of educational backgrounds? One of the things that we always looked at was in terms of Odyssey Bowl, we never looked at people's qualifications coming in the door because we didn't really see what qualification they needed apart from being a good person with a great personality.
So,
what way do you see that in the Wall group?
Yeah. So look, there's a couple of pieces. The bit I struggled with, the bit I struggled with was there are plenty of people. You know, you're absolutely right. I mean, we have put more people through their essential skills than probably anybody in North Belfast.
Yeah.
Well, like we've done loads, so we lots of our people have not had those educational qualifications, the sort of GCSE, English and Maths, lots of that. We're not too worried about that.
Yeah.
But the bit that did hold us back was getting that person with greater experience,
Yeah.
who could actually manage and develop other people.
Yeah.
That's the bit that I did struggle with. So finding people to come in to work in the shops and stuff like that, we're not too hung up on qualifications. We'll get those done for you, and we've done hundreds probably over the years for people, and we'll train you in the business. But attracting the talent that can lead those people was the tough bit. That was the bit that we really found to struggle with. And I think I'm not sure whether I mentioned last time the mix of getting them to come to North Belfast if they lived outside North Belfast, and also coming to something that's not that sexy enough, an industry, retail. Although interestingly, of course, you have the coronavirus hits, and if you're in hospital, you know what I mean? It's one of the stronger areas to be, most likely to survive anyway. At the current time, so things have maybe changed on that front, but that's where I struggled, getting that, but that's where. Interestingly, the more I built up the people in the business, the more I showcased the business, the more I hashtagged back in North Belfast, the more every time I showed off a member of the team and said, well done, this is a great job, that then was the bit that started attracting other people in, saying, oh flip, if I work for him, he'll do that for me, and he'll care about me. And that then attracted the better people in, the Kierans of this world. And when I say better, I don't mean that in any pejorative sense to the people I already had. What I meant was people who've actually seen what it's like to work in a big business, have that experience, bring in the bit that maybe we're lacking because we're still a small business in that context. You know, I know we've been growing over the years. But yes, so qualification are, you know, all of those bits we can do for them, Sean. And we can do that. That's part of being in our business. But we did lack then that next level of knowledge.
And that's one of the areas that we want to focus in a wee bit more on now, because we're kind of, you know, when we're working within businesses to improve the organizational culture, what we're kind of saying is that needs matched up somewhere, because I think a lot of times in community, you get a lot of different steps to work programs and people putting different training in, but they literally do the training and walk away again. And maybe put somebody in employment, but they don't last because they don't understand how to operate within a business culture. So that's one of the things that we kind of really want to put a focus on is training people, teaching them how they can actually understand how a business operates, so that they can achieve long-term employment rather than just going in and sort of fly-by-night thing, that they can go in long-term and that they can benefit the business. So that's where we're really seeing the link between the strength of business and community working together, because as you've done, business can give so much back to the community, including employment, but in many other ways as well. But if the community are giving something to the business as well, that cycle is just a positive upward cycle for any area.
It is. And again, it's the chicken and the egg, you know. It's the day-to-day struggle. It's trying to get past the day-to-day struggle for a lot of businesses, and seeing all these wee things, and they're all an additional wee strand that make the bond between employer, employee, community, CSR. They're all just layered on top, and then all of a sudden, you know, you have a really strong business because you've done one, you've done the next, you've supported that person, you've showcased that person, you've given them additional training, you know, you've not been afraid to step away from the business and let them have a rattle at it, you know, with the right supervision. You let them know what they're working towards. I mean, the massive piece, if you bring them in, if you're bringing people in and they don't know what it is that the business is trying to achieve, and that may be just in their own personal goals. For instance, let's take just one tiny element, wastage, for instance, wastage in a grocery shop, right? If it's not being monitored, or they don't have a target to achieve, or it's not being measured, I know lots of businesses don't measure this, the good ones do. So if they don't know at the end of the week, they have to determine, right, I reduce that on such and such day, I do that on that day, at the end of the week I have this target to hit. So if I don't hit this target, somebody will speak to me about the target. You know,
that's very important.
I mean, speak to me, give me feedback, let me know that I missed the target.
That real-time review.
Real-time review. If that's not sort of happening, then the person won't grow, because they just. Did it matter that I did that? Why am I doing that? Nobody even seems to take an interest that I do that.
And that's where it shifts away from just being a number as well. That you are an actual person. That people, if you're not performing, as you say, it's not to get shouted at. It's to kind of be coached on further. So does it care about you and you care about the business? You know, important to get that connection.
So
100%. The one thing I wanted to sort of mention was, because obviously I know we can't take up all your day, but Where you mentioned vision, and for us, vision is the starting block to every journey, especially a cultural journey for every organization. Where are you going? You mentioned purpose there. That's massively important about it. Where's the Wall Group going? Where's Gavan Wall going? They're two different, maybe, enigmas.
I know. And look, there's a little bit of quandary. So, I mean, for instance, for the Wall Group, so we have to, like, I'm full-time actually on other stuff, and I'm really just guiding, mentoring the team, and I have to think about, and that probably, look, whatever stage you develop to, there are always new questions. Right? The minute that you stop having new questions is the minute that your business is stagnating or dying. So my question is, if you want to, like, this is a flipping exclusive, this is a scoop here. I don't even think I've talked about this in my own podcast. So,
and at the end as well, so people have to listen.
Yeah, all right. Well, so we've got the time. So part three.
Culture Talks exclusive for anyone watching.
Exclusive is, so I am full time on the change, right? I'm full time on venture capital innovation that we're doing with the change. That's full time work. That's a 10-year project. I've dedicated 11 months into that full time, 9 years and one month more allocated towards that, and then I'll review again. But so what happens to the Wall Group? Because all I am really is their mentor, sort of their chairman, once a quarter, etc. And if that doesn't continue to grow, or doesn't continue to have a growth mindset, the business, or it doesn't continue to have aspiration about what it's going to do, well, then that will stagnate. And we may have had a good year last year, for instance, but we're going into coronavirus now. Well, we're well into it. What happens on the other side of that? How do you keep motivating your staff with the stresses, etc., etc.? So that is a big conundrum for me at the minute, is to make sure that the drive that's had for the last decade continues to be had, even when it only has a much smaller amount of my time. And that's why the guys who are leading it are so important, and it's important that we develop our managers in each store. We have a massive we actually have a massive announcement about it. I can't announce it. Coronavirus just put it back a couple of months, but we do have a massive announcement in the Wall Group.
Right.
I had just flagged it up just before coronavirus hit. I should have been announcing it by now. It's still going to happen, but it's going to be back.
I remember we post.
Yeah, I remember we
posted.
Yeah,
that comes to mind now.
So we do have a massive announcement for the next stage of the Wall Group.
Brilliant.
So we then have to deliver that. So that'll be announced sometime soon.
Feel free to make it now, Gavin.
Yeah, no, I can't. I've been asked not to say anything until it's all finalised on the legals.
Stop trying to get him in trouble, Sean.
I know. But that is next part. That is part of my journey. It's to make sure that Wall Group piece, and make sure that North Belfast piece continues to grow, even with less of my time. I'll tell you one last thing for probably wrap up is, when I went down to, about 3 years ago, it was down to, well, 2.5 years ago, what do you call him? Richard Branson at the Pendulum Summit.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And that guy, like, I swear to God, this took me weeks, and I have mentioned this in my own podcast, but I came away, that guy literally is in each business that he starts for about 3 months.
Right.
That's how long he's in each business for, literally. I hung on every word he said. I know he's getting a bad press at the minute and all the rest of that.
He is.
I accept that, and but what he has done consistently is he's been in businesses for a few months, but he's built a culture and built a team so strongly that they then take it on.
100%.
Okay. I know he's getting a load of grief at the minute, but he's done that consistently. Maybe he's lost
his way. Still a fan.
So he does that, and so that's part of what I have to do with that Wall Group piece, is they need to be able to take it on with just a lighter touch from me, and that's part of what I really thought about having seen Richard Branson 2.5 years ago at the Pendulum Summit, is how to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen, we'll finish up at that, and I have to say thank you very much for coming on two parts here. It was great.
Hopefully it's not the last time.
One last thing. Every entrepreneur out there should be thinking about how do they make themselves redundant, right? Okay. That's it. How do they make themselves redundant? So this business, how does this business operate without me? Step out. I need to build the culture. I need to build the people. I need to give them the aspiration. When you do that, I tell you, your entrepreneurial journey is going to be so much more satisfying.
That's where we're going.
Okay.
Gavin, listen, thank you for everything that you've done, I suppose, for being here, but everything you've done through the Wall Group as well for the local community.
Yes.
It's really
Yes,
inspirational.
absolutely.
Everything that you've given back, you deserve all the credit to get for it and less of the stick. So guys, thank you very much. As Gavin has talked about, remember, with your people, engage, enable, and empower.
Overnight.
Take care, guys. Thanks very much. Bye.